Bruno Binetti joins me now. He's with the Inter-American Dialogue, a policy organization that tackles issues in the Western Hemisphere. Bruno, how significant is this partial reopening of the border?
I think it's important for both countries. From the Colombian standpoint, this is important because the government needs Venezuelan support for the ongoing peace process with armed groups within Colombia, and also because the economy of the border areas depend on trade with Venezuela that had been interrupted for a year. On the Venezuelan side, this is also significant because it will allow Venezuelans to buy basic goods, food, and supplies that have been missing in Venezuela for a long time.
What do you mean by missing?
So Venezuela is experiencing an acute crisis of scarcity of basic goods.
Yes.
A combination of bad policies and the collapse of oil prices have plunged the economy into a deep crisis. And this is a way for the Venezuelan government to alleviate some of that pressure. So I think it's a very positive deal.
So do you think it's because of the economic crisis that Venezuela is enduring right now that the talks happened now because things are so dire in Venezuela? The timing is what I'm asking about.
Absolutely. A few weeks ago, President Maduro of Venezuela granted the military broad authority to ensure food distribution. So I think this could be a factor. If the military is taking over the distribution of food in Venezuela, they could be pressuring Maduro into a more pragmatic policy in the border with Colombia to alleviate the crisis.
So how do we know the same dispute that closed the border last August, security issues and smuggling, how do we know these issues are not going to come up again?
Yeah, well, governments, I think, are trying to be very careful about this process of reopening to ensure that this will not, like smuggling and violent clashes won't return. The border will be open for only hours each day from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. People will be able to cross only by foot, so that's important.
And that's the first stage.
Exactly.
What is the second stage?
The second stage would be allowing normal trade to proceed between both countries. I think both governments will see what happens during the first phase, where the security situation remains relatively stable, where they can control the flux of goods, particularly oil from Venezuela that's shipped to Colombia, and Colombian food and basic goods to Venezuela.
Do you foresee a scenario this weekend when this pedestrian crossway opens, the border, where you're going to see a mass exodus of Venezuelans getting out and hitting the grocery stores in Colombia?
For 2 days in July, the border was open for a few hours. I think they were trying to test whether this was viable. Of course, thousands of Venezuelans entered Colombia to get these basic goods, but the situation was under control. Both governments, I think, are relatively sure that they can handle this, and that's why we're seeing this important breakthrough.
And Colombia's President Santos has said he hopes this is the opening of perhaps a new chapter in relations between the two countries. Do you see this as a positive step in terms of relations between Maduro and Santos?
I think they need each other. I think Santos has been criticizing Colombia for being too lenient on Venezuela, but the priority of the Colombian government right now is the peace process. And at the same time, Colombia could help in alleviating the crisis in Venezuela. So I think they both need each other, and I think pragmatism for once seems to be winning.
At least it's a step in the right direction.
Exactly.
That is for sure. Bruno Binetti, thank you so much for your time.